I think you're going to like this because it's probably not going to be what you expected. Edgar Cayce talks about the future of America, about leadership, about who and what we are in that future and how we shape it. So, what about Donald Trump? What about the United States? Where are we? Where are we going? I think you're going to really like this because we're going into a new era of claiming power like we've never seen on this planet. Let's talk about Edgar Cayce's vision of our future. Let's talk about that right now. Welcome to landriaonkka on YouTube. If you know my channel, you know that you can't find anything on here that's going to tell you anything less than we have an amazing future ahead of us, that we're in control of everything, that you and I are the creators, the co-creators. You don't believe it? Well, then you might be allowing that out there to control this in here, which goes into fear. And you go into struggle, anxiety, wake up 3 in the morning, and then you project that into your own life and things start going wrong. There's nothing ever wrong. But when you recognize your power and how we're affecting the very events that are going on right now, you're going to turn everything around the minute you realize that you can. So what if I told you that I search for real documented prophecies about the United States and Donald Trump? You've probably heard a lot of them out there. And guess what? Everybody has about a 50-50 chance of being right. And I looked up the most famous psychics in history and found something unexpected. Almost none of them made clear, viable predictions about modern U.S. events and consistently were right. And the few that did, they don't agree. And we're going to talk about who's making those predictions and why those predictions sound this way with person A and this way with person B. It's not that somebody's wrong. They are seeing actual viable futures. And here's the best part. We get to choose which one we experience. Because some say America collapses. Others say it becomes a spiritual leader. Like Russia, Cayce predicted that. Some say Trump rises again, and others say he disappears from influence completely. They cannot all be right. Well, in a way, they actually are. No one is ever wrong because there are unlimited futures that exist right now, and all of them are open for choice. All of them. There is no one future predicted that cannot be changed. These are the words of Edgar Cayce. And so when you hear things that you don't like, if the person delivering that message doesn't end it with, if you don't like this, you can change it, then they are living a world of ego that believes that what they see is correct. And what they see is according to their beliefs and feelings. Every future predicted includes the ego and the frequency of the person giving that prediction. Now, you could say that's not the case with Edgar Cayce, and somebody said he channeled, and I don't believe he actually channeled. Edgar Cayce was actually sharing information he was tapping into as he was on the other side. He, Edgar Cayce, the higher self, was speaking. He wasn't channeling another entity. He wasn't getting information from anything else. He was reading the Akashic records. No one was telling him any one thing that would happen, but he saw a future based on a current frequency that was very destructive. He saw the earth in cataclysmic events because we were on a lower frequency. At the time that he saw that future, every future is right. So they can't all be right? They are. What's missing is the choice of the individual, and together the collective experiences something as a unified family, a field. You and I are family. We all chose to be here at this specific time. Don't like what you see? When you recognize that you and I are the mind, because the mind is the builder, Edgar Cayce said, the mind can change any one of these predictions, these futures that he saw, and that prayer was one of the most important parts. So we need to ask a better question. Why do predictions about the future keep conflicting in the first place? Let's talk about what Edgar Cayce actually said. One of the most documented figures, Edgar Cayce, known as the sleeping prophet. He was going into this other dimension, a higher dimension where all answers lie, all futures lie, all realities and possibilities. He gave over 14,000 trance readings, mostly about health, and he was very accurate. He wasn't 100% though. No one can be. Christ didn't heal everyone. Why? There has to be a mutual consent and participation. It's called free will. Many of these readings of Edgar Cayce were recorded and archived, and you can look them up. I'm going to start showing more and more of those. What did he say? Documented things. He warned of economic instability before the Great Depression and warned people to pull their money out of the stock market when it was at its peak. And most of them did not and lost everything. He described global conflict involving Europe and Asia, later linked to World War II. He spoke about earth changes and shifts in coastlines. We haven't seen that yet. This too can be avoided. And most importantly, he emphasized a spiritual transformation of humanity with the United States playing a role. I believe that is where we are right now. Now, I'm not talking about a prediction. I'm talking about what we're experiencing and choosing as a collective right now. And there's no prediction we do not have access to. There are no limits. There are no rules about it. The universe says, yes, you are given free will within this human body because you came here already as a co-creator. We created everything with the one source because we and it are not separate. Therefore, we hold that power. Therefore, you are creating at every moment. What do you see for our future? What do you see for our president? I'm asking you, and this might be the toughest thing for you, depending on what your opinions are, to bless every single person from the lowest frequency to the high. This is unity and oneness. This is when we go into all compassion, unity, and community. And that includes everyone. No one will be turned away. No one. Now, you can't get to the top floor in that penthouse. My father has many mansions, and there are many floors in the mansion. You can't get up to that penthouse and drink champagne and with the beautiful views. Why? Because you will reside in the frequency of that which you've created. So you don't have to worry about people that you might despise. You don't like what they're doing. They're living in the frequency of what they're creating, and there are consequences to that. If any one of our leaders is executing ill will or anything else that is not compassion, love, and community-based, they will experience the effects of that. You do not have to be the judge and jury. He without sin cast the first stone. We are equals, and all of us learn. All of us have choice too, but you can affect the other through your compassion and love and sending light. Your prayers affect even the lowest of the frequencies. So Cayce repeatedly stated that the future is not fixed. In his readings, outcomes depended on human choices, moral behavior, collective consciousness. So we do affect one another as one. Moral behavior determines the higher or lower frequencies of the collective. This is why we cannot go into hate, division, criticism, and judgment. Stop it all. When you do this, watch what happens in your life. Beautiful things will arrive because you're in an upper floor where there are no criticisms or judgments there. There's only acceptance and love. And human choices is number one. We came here for the human choices, even though we are the co-creators of all things. That's the game, to forget that, but to realize that we're doing all of it. He described the future as conditional, not predetermined. This is Edgar Cayce saying this. So he said all these predictions, and everybody's turning off the last half of that, saying, okay, what about that other part? Mind is the builder. None of these things have to happen. And we are actually communicating directly with sentient beings, including the sun and the planet. We are 100% connected to it. It is aware of us. Not separately, we and it are one. So therefore, if we go into negativity, we will see the effects of the cataclysmic earth events. We will see the effects of the solar flares. They haven't been so bad lately, right? Not as predicted. What Cayce did not do, he did not mention Donald Trump. He never did. So if somebody tells you that, They're not coming from his archives. He did not predict modern US elections. He did not give fixed timelines for most major events. So when I give you timelines, I'm going by events that have been predicted are now actually happening. So we know, yes, 2026, all these things we told would happen in separate areas of our life. We know now that we are in 2026 and we're going into transformation. We're in it. This is not a future event anymore, peeps. This matters because many viral claims online attribute predictions to Cayce that simply don't exist in the original records. Cayce principle: conditions can be changed. Now, here's my question to you. You hold co-creation power. If you were to use that power to wish ill on somebody you don't like, maybe somebody else in power, you will experience the repercussions of a low frequency use of free will. You can't change their free will anyways. You will then receive the negative repercussions of wanting ill will on another person. No matter what they do or how bad you think they are, does not justify it. Because these things you do to the least of us, you do to me. The least of us. That might include some of our leaders, according to you. This single idea undermines the entire concept of rigid prophecy. So let's talk about other prophets and why they don't align. Let's expand beyond Cayce. Nostradamus wrote in symbolic quatrains no direct references to the United States or Donald Trump. Interpretations are applied after events occur. Oh, he said this. Oh, this happened. It must have been this. It doesn't help us at all if we're looking for future events to be predicted. So if you don't like a prediction, that's your assignment to change it. It's not to go into fear. It's just say, I don't like it. We can all change this. Let's get out of this hole and this negative thinking and blaming. We got to get out of this, because if that's our future and we don't like it, that means we are still in separation, negativity, judgment, and blame. And oneness takes us out of those events. And that starts with you and I, not those leaders, you and I. Everyone will experience the frequency of which they choose. Let's talk about Baba Vanga, frequently cited for her predictions about global instability. However, none of it's ever been verified with original written records. Most predictions were published secondhand, no confirmed statements, definitely not about Trump. Since 2016, numerous psychics and channelers have made claims. Trump will save America. Trump will destroy democracy. Trump will return to power. Trump will fade from influence. Have you looked at the political stance of the people giving those predictions? They coincide with the predictions. The ego of the person predicting affects the outcome and the path that they see. We're talking more about that because we're going to take charge instead of looking to those people. And channeling, same way. If you align with a certain voice out there, you cannot be sure what it is. It could be just as manipulative as any human. So this is the pattern. The same event produces completely different visions. Let's talk about government research, remote viewing. I love this because I love how the experts gave some insights about predictions using remote viewing. And this is documented research. Programs at Stanford Research Institute, supported by agencies like the CIA, studied remote viewing for decades. Key figures: Russell Tarr, you might have heard of him, and Hal Puthoff. Two major dudes that headed all of this up. What they found: remote viewing could produce statistically significant results when describing hidden objects, distant locations. But when it came to the future, accuracy dropped significantly, and they actually stopped predicting the future. Okay? They did predict the stock market and made a lot of money doing that, but it was not deep into the future. The further they went out into the future, the less accurate it got. And each of the remote viewers had completely different predictions depending on their beliefs, their frequency, what they thought, and therefore they were tuning into a specific future according to what they saw. And it was all correct, but they were different. This is proof that you can do this too. You can pick your future. You can be abundant. You can be healthy. You can have beautiful relationships. You can turn anything around, and you have got to stay on it. You've got to clear out any negative thought. Person walking down the street, ew, oh, Bless that person. That is me. You see somebody acting mean, they're in fear and ignorance. Why would you wish bad on them? They're treating me badly, then that's your ego. Pull it up and watch what happens in your life. You have to be aware. So, critical conclusion from the researchers, data suggested that expectation and belief influenced results. Same thing with quantum physics. The observer of the wave, which is the probability, affected the particle, the outcome, according to their beliefs. This is quantum physics. Remote viewing was showing these exact same results. Viewers often predicted interpretations rather than objective data. In other words, even under controlled conditions, the human mind interfered with future perception. This is amazing. This is amazing. I keep telling over and over, the more I'm watching science and hearing from the dudes that are proving this through science, I'm telling you, we are in control. We are the creators. We could create anything here. You don't bypass the challenges. We welcomed the challenges. Can you imagine being in heaven going, I can have anything, and after about a week, there would be no challenge. Why run a marathon, right? Isn't the beauty of running the marathon working through the pain and getting to it and go, oh my gosh, I did it. Studying for the test. What if you just passed all your tests? What if you had the perfect body? You're probably saying right now, that would be great, right? You could eat anything and not put on weight or get sick. You'd get tired of that. You would be bored. You'd probably get really depressed. I think there's a movie about that. Let's talk about quantum consciousness, what science actually supports. Let's connect this to science carefully and accurately. One concept often referenced to is the observer effect. I'm going to talk more about that in future videos. In quantum experiments, measuring a system can influence its state. Observation is not neutral. This does not mean humans can think anything into existence instantly, right? We affect it, or that physics proves manifestation in a simplistic way. It's not simple, but it does support something more grounded. The act of observation is part of the system being observed. The system being observed is affected by the observer. The observation determines what the observed becomes. Okay? A little more complex than just I'm going to look at something and change it. You have to be really confident. You got to clear out all the other garbage. And by the way, people in power that do really bad stuff, they have control. They know how this works. You can use it for a higher frequency or lower one. I keep telling you that you're thinking, well, major manifestors are on a high frequency. No, they know how to use this power. But the frequency, the choice of free will is within it. So be careful with that. That's why people in power, they have billions of dollars. They know how to control others and keep us thinking that we should be broke, poor, struggling. There's pride in working in the factory all day, supporting your family. It's all programming. So if consciousness interacts with reality at any level, then attempting to see the future may not be observing a fixed timeline, but instead interacting with probabilities. There's no specific timeline, right? Throw that out the window. Nobody can give you a time. Poor Chris Bledsoe should have never opened his mouth or let anybody influence him. Well, the Red Star Regulus is going to be over the Sphinx on this date. Tell the world. And he knew. He's been influenced. He knew that the lady that predicted that future said we would go into a new knowledge, never said that Christ was going to come down, that an alien craft was going to land, the world would know. He said the world would know that we were going into the divine feminine, but we don't know what that really means. Maybe we go into enlightenment. Boom! There's a majority of people or enough people on the planet going into enlightenment that we absolutely blast it out to everybody, and everyone else goes, oh, wow, and they just feel it. Wouldn't that be wonderful? That's all we need. We don't need an appearance by anything or anyone. We need and desire this to go into this. No one can describe what that is. If consciousness interacts with reality at any level, then attempting to see the future may not be observing a fixed timeline, but instead interacting with probabilities. I'm saying that again. Why? You're interacting with probabilities at any moment, and all of them are a choice in every second, and you're making it. No one does it to it. No one does anything to you. It's all choices, and we came here to experience the good, the bad, and the ugly. This aligns with Cayce. No fixed outcomes, only potential futures shaped by collective behavior and decisions. Why predictions fail. Putting everything together right now. Let's put it together. No fixed timeline. Historical prophets rarely gave a precise, testable prediction. Information is filtered through beliefs, identity, expectation. We change things. Oh, this means this. And then, you know how you tell the secret and you get around the room and it comes back nothing like how it started? Conflicting outputs, different individuals produce opposite conclusions. Scientific limitation, even controlled experiments show inconsistency with future prediction because every individual is involved in that decision making and its choice. It's never going to be the same with everybody. Even heaven or hell, you're choosing that too. The future behaves less like a script and more like a range of possibilities. So, what does all of this mean? Besides, you should subscribe to my channel and join my membership because we're going to have discussions about this. It means this. There's no verified evidence that anyone, not Edgar Cayce, not Nostradamus, not modern physics, has consistently predicted detailed future events about the United States or Donald Trump in a precise, repeatable way. But here's the consistent evidence of something else. Human consciousness influences perception. Interpretation shapes what is seen, and outcomes are not fixed. Do you know how powerful this is? And you might say, man, I wanted her to tell me what's going to happen to Donald Trump and when. Guess what? He is going to exit, and so are you and I. When? That's his path to choose, not yours. You cannot predict that, nor can I, nor can you wish it to happen. He has total free will over his life, as do you. You would never want anybody to wish anything bad on you or for you to exit here early. They can't do it. So don't you try to. It will come back on you tenfold, as will good wishes. I send our president and our government and all the other countries that are struggling and suffering that we call enemies. I send them light and love because they're all human beings struggling in a low frequency that believes that fighting for things and usually resources, land, will mean absolutely nothing when they leave here. And I pray that they will see that so that we can end this conflict and go into peace. And you may say, that's never going to happen, and that will be your world, not mine. You can tell me anything you want. I still have free will, free speech, and I can believe whatever I choose, as can you. Be careful of what that is, and be careful how you use your powers. Outcomes are not fixed. The future is not something you discover. It is something that's influenced by what we choose. If predictions aren't fixed, then the real question is, what are we collectively creating next? Ask your neighbor what they think about what's going on, and you will hear if there's hate, separation going on, that will create more conflict. Do not go into that space, my friend. This is the transition into the beautiful golden era, is to step away from that. Those thoughts, those beliefs, that separation of any kind, and knowing that you don't have to approve. You can just love, and that will change everything. Much quicker than opposition. That keeps you and I separate, and that is not our goal here. Yes, it's a tough job. If you'd like to subscribe and come join my private membership, we meet live every weekend for an hour. We have some pretty deep discussions. It's a lot of fun. And also you get all of my videos early without ads. And I hope that you'll explore the description where I give you bite toothpaste that is non-toxic, that doesn't come in tubes. Stop polluting our planet. I give you water filters so that you're not using plastic bottles anymore. I give you all kinds of discounts and things down there by companies who are making the right decisions, and that's the new earth, right? Go in there, take a look at what you can do to make a choice, not using toxins in your home. Stop poisoning yourself. This is all programming. It keeps us sick and it keeps them rich. And we're stepping away from it, not with anger, but with love. And you are loved unconditionally. You are love. You are whole and perfect, strong and powerful, loving, harmonious, and happy. Here's my book. Visit my book if you want to see what my download was, not a channel, just the information that you possess right now. Step into it, go into meditation, ask for answers, not as a separate person, but as someone who has access to all answers and all realities. Which one do you want to choose? Know it, envision it, create it. I'll see you in the next video. Namaste.